My lovely people, it's Queen Agnes. Welcome to Queen TV, where I encourage everyone to be earnest and brilliant and over-empowered. So today the title of my video is 6 ways in which parents can understand Christian children in 2020. And this is part 2 to my part 1. So if you have not checked out part 1, make sure you go ahead and check out part 1. It will be in my description box below, so I'll make it easier for you guys. You just click down below and check out part 1. So part 1, I just answer the question, do parents understand Christian children? And I said no. I kind of didn't go really into much detail because I felt like it would kind of steal some of the points I'm trying to make in this video. So I just did a general straight up answer to just no. And so the first way parents can understand these children is number 1, communication. Communication is really important. And I feel like most of the time, I am not saying parents need to talk to their kids more. I mean, I am saying it because some people are gonna be like, well, they do talk to their children. But what I mean is communication works both ways. Parents cannot just do all the talking and then never allow the child to communicate back, because that doesn't really count as communication. That's a lecture. That's a lecture. A lecture is when someone is just talking and talking and talking, making assumptions about you, just keep talking and keep talking, and you can't say anything back. And I believe in communications. The child and the parent have a communication back and forth. And sometimes I believe there has to be some anger released from both sides. I think it's really unfair how parents are allowed to express their anger and kids are not, because they're called disrespectful. I think that's really, I hate that it looks like that. Like, it's really shouldn't be like that. I think kids, because we have anger inside and hurt that we want to release, and it's not healthy for us to keep it inside. And I know that because I have all my life have held in so much pain, so much hurt, and sometimes it comes out, and it comes out as disrespectful because I'm never allowed to project it out. Oops. I'm never allowed to project it out. So I feel like that communication, parents and child both communicating back and forth. The child tries to understand the parent and the parent tries to understand the child. Not just where the child is talking, the parent pretends to hear and understand, but really they're not. Like, that too does not work. So genuine communication between a child and a parent is how a child can understand that's the simplest way. And just showing that you actually care, like beyond school, beyond education, beyond job and career, like you actually genuinely care about a child's feelings. If they're depressed, you're not gonna laugh and be like, what? Like, parents do that. They laugh at their child when they're in a depressive state, and that's not healthy at all, because it causes the child to shut down and not want to talk to the parents when they're going through something. And sometimes parents ask, like, why didn't you come to me for this? It's because you made it hard for the child to come up to you, because there's been certain situations that they've tried to come to you, but you just shut them down. So it causes them to not want to come to you when there's something going on. So just having that genuine communication and letting your child know that they can come to you when they need to talk to you, it's really important. That's why I have it as number 1 on my list. The next way parents can understand children better is to stop comparing children. Like, stop comparing your child to other children, because that is one thing that kids hate. Because I know for 99% of me is sure that if we were to compare our parents to other parents, they wouldn't like that. So it's the same thing with children, you know? It works both ways. We don't like when we're compared to other kids, because first of all, we're not other kids. We're our own self. And when we're all often constantly compared to other kids, it causes us to feel like our parents aren't, like, how can I say it? Like, they aren't paying attention to us, because if they have the ability or like to compare us to another child they don't even know. It's like you're putting me in the same position as that person, and the fact that you're saying that that person is better, that you could, like, me as a child could do as that person does who you don't even know, like, that makes me feel like you don't love me as much as you say, because you're over comparing me to another child, you know. And so that's one thing kids absolutely hate, when you parents compare us to other kids. Like, we hate it so much, and that causes us to also shut down, because we do not like being compared to other children, especially if we know them. If we know that child, it just makes us think so many things that are probably not true, but it just causes us to get depressed sometimes. It causes us to shut down. It causes us to be like, wow, like, my parents really think this low of me, because especially if you know that other person and flaws that they do, you think, wow, like, my parents really compared me to this person, whether it be in a good way or a bad way. So that's one of the things that kids hate. They hate it. Like, as soon as you say, well, Sally from down the street does this and this and this and this, kids just shut down. They're not going to listen to what you're saying. So that's a good tip. Number 3 is be there for your kids emotionally. It's one thing to be for your kid. It's one thing to be there for your kids when they need the money for school, when they need clothes, when they need a place to sleep, when they need someone to pay the bills, when they need someone to take them to the hospital. All of these things, it's good to be there for them. But there's literally some parents who do not connect on the child on an emotional state. And when the child goes to them emotionally, it's like they feel absolutely like crap. Like, they feel worse coming to their parents. They feel so much worse coming to the parents that they prefer to just hold it in because of the judgment and the lack of just their parents being there for them emotionally. Like, we know our parents can be there for us financially. We know our parents can be there to push us when we're not doing good in school. We know they can be there to provide for us in every way, but sometimes I feel like emotionally we don't feel it. And that goes back to communications. We don't feel like we can come to our parents emotionally, and that's really sad, because emotionally, that's where a lot of us lack. Like, I personally, emotions are the way to my heart, and the emotions are also a way out of my heart. Like, if you want to get into my life or have a part in my life, hit me emotionally and you'll have a way in. And if you want to get out of it, hit me emotionally too and you'll get out of it. So that's the same thing with parents. If you can't connect on your child on an emotional level, that area, they go to the world. They go to someone on the outside, and that's why we spill our tea at home to other people, because we don't have the emotional support at home with our parents. And so that's why we spill to other people, and that always has negative, not always, but sometimes that can have negative impacts. And I've had it where it had negative impacts, and it's not a good thing. Okay, number 4, put yourself in their shoes. And when I say put yourself in their shoes, I don't mean you thinking back to, oh, when I was at your age. That's not putting yourself in a child's shoe. If I were to put myself, okay, say for example, my brother, I'm a girl, he's a boy, and say he did something and he stole something, and I'm gonna first of all put myself in his. What I always do, whatever happens with my brothers, I always try to put myself in their shoes. And just from knowing a lot of things that they do sometimes, that's what causes me to do some of the things I do. Because, for example, my brother had gone like a low grade in his class, and I was like, okay, let me put myself in his shoes. And then I was like, okay, I'm putting myself in his shoes. He's always on the game. He doesn't really focus. And so putting myself in his shoe, I'm like, okay, there's no way I can there's no way I can agree with where he wasn't coming from. Nowhere. He was coming from a childish perspective. But there's sometimes when I can't put myself in my brother's shoe on a grade that he did get that could have been better, but I put myself in his shoes. Okay, I'm going to this school, they have these kind of classes, and I did my work. I have all my work turned in, and my teacher is not doing this. I can put myself in his shoe. yes, I might never have had that problem of me like always getting A's or whatever, but I can put myself in that shoe. So the same thing with parents, like put yourself in that child shoe, especially in the 19th, is it 20th century? The 21st. I'm way behind. But especially in the 21st century, it's important to put yourself in a child's shoe, because there's so many things that are different from when parents were growing up. Technology is super high nowadays. Technology is a center for our education, unfortunately. And I know I had a problem trying to explain this to my parents, that when we go to school, we rely so heavily on devices. We rely so much on technology. And versus when they went to school, they didn't rely on it at all. Like, so you gotta put yourself in a child's shoe. When we were going in school, I mean, sometimes a child is in the position where they're not open. If a child is not open to you, of course they're not gonna be open to like other. I mean, there's just so many examples of how you can put yourself in a child's shoe. And it does not mean, oh, let me think back to when I was that age. That is not how it works, because usually that also isn't helpful at all. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5 is, don't assume that you know everything. And I think that's a big thing with kids and parents not understanding kids, is that parents assume just because they're older that they know every single thing. And that discourages children, first of all. That also that shows that you're not there for them emotionally, because you're not trying to understand where they're coming from. Because sadly, the world is changing. There's so many changes that even I cannot say that I know every single thing with this new generation. Like I talked about, I cannot be like, oh, I know everything and you don't because you're younger than me. No. Whenever someone is younger than me and they actually want to voice something, I listen and I'm like, okay, let me see. Like, he might know something that I don't know. And we see this so many times in the Bible where younger kids ended up being wiser than these older people, because maturity, knowledge, it doesn't have an age. So that's why parents should just stop assuming that they know every single thing, everything. Like, oh, because I'm older, I know better, I'm your parent. Like, that's one thing that parents, if they want to understand the child more, needs to stop doing that, because there's some things that your child might know that you don't. And that's just how it works. And there's a lot of things that your parents know that you don't know. And that's why it's a relationship. It doesn't mean you're their boss. Like, it's a relationship. Y'all communicate, y'all learn from each other, because that's what it's there for, you know? And the last thing parents should do to understand a child more is know when it is enough. You have to know when enough is enough. You have to know when you need to stop. You have to know your limits. So, and that depends on the child. That goes back to knowing your child. You have to know when is the limit to keep pushing them to do something before they're just not going to do it. You have to know when is the limit for you. Oh, I'm not pushing them enough. I need to push them more. You need to know what's the limit to the words that you say. You need to know what's the limit to the things that you get. Like, just knowing when to stop. Because it's important for kids to know when to stop. And I think it's also important for parents to know when to stop too. Because there's just some examples that parents just take it too far sometimes. They just take it way too far. And it's just like, okay, you did not have to go there. Like when I was listening to you, like, I was actually getting this and this and this and this. But when you just started talking about this and this and this, like, you took it way too far. And now because you said that, I'm not going to even listen to the other things that you said, because you just said this other thing that really upset me. So I'm not going to listen to anything. So that's how it is. Every human in this world needs to know when to stop. So I don't know why parents should be any different when it comes to their children, knowing when to stop. And so before I end, I want to talk about the verse that I read last time about Jesus, how his parents, after the little festival, they didn't know where his parents didn't know where he was. He just stayed behind. And when he stayed behind, the parents had to travel to a whole 2-day journey to finally reach him, and he was 12. And so I'm just saying that as an example. Not all kids are bad. That's another thing. Not all kids are bad. And that goes again with knowing how your child is. Really knowing your child. Like, do not base your child, like, comparing again. Like, don't base your child off of 90% of other kids and what they're doing, or what your friends tell you their child is doing. Your child is not your friend's child. Your child is your child. So you have to know your child. And when you say things like, oh, I don't trust you to go here because children, they always do this and this and this, that makes your child think, so you really don't know me. Like, you don't know me. When Jesus left and he met up with his parents, they understood why he was there. They understood that they understood his purpose for being there. And so that caused him to trust his parents. Like it works both ways. And a few things that I wanted to say. And yeah, I just want to really emphasize on that, comparing your child to other people. Communication is really, really important. Also, it all comes down to just knowing your child. And you can't even compare your children to each other, because every child is different. Just like my mom is different from my dad, your child is going to be different from each other. They're going to be different from other people. So if we were to go around comparing our parents to other parents, then that would be a problem too. So I feel like the same kind of respect and communication and expectations that goes out to children should also go to parents. And I feel like that's how parents would understand children more. So I'm just going to review the 6 ways parents can understand children, Christian children in 2020. Okay, so first is communication. Second is stop comparing. 3 is being there for them emotionally. 4, putting yourself in their shoes. 5, don't assume that you know everything. 6, knowing when enough is enough. Knowing when to stop. So that is it, my lovely people. Thank you for tuning in on another episode of Try Again, This Time with God. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. May God bless you. Bye.